All right. This is Joel. Welcome to our first ever Book Banter podcast. I hope you're excited. Here's Andy.
Oh, and I'm Andy. Hi.
So today we'll be discussing the first book of the month, which was Annihilation by a guy named Jeff VanderMeer. But before we do that, we wanted to talk a little bit about our 18 and 18. So we're figuring that we're at least going to read 18 books in the year 2018. That's maybe all I'll get to because I have too much reading. I got so much reading of all this little kids' essays and stuff. It's like crazy. So Andy will probably beat me, but
yeah, I'm already to 10 books for the year, so I'm pretty sure I'll get to 18. But our list of 18 books for 2018, essentially what we decided to do is, everybody has a bunch of books that they, come across and say, oh, I want to read that someday, but you never get around to them. So we decided that we were going to each choose 18 books that we have been meaning to read for a long time, and we're finally going to read them this year. For me, the main requirement to make the list was that I had to own the book, meaning it had to be sitting on my shelf right at this moment. And I did that so that I can make sure that I don't feel so bad for buying other books in the future. I can, feel like I have trimmed down the list of books I already own and haven't read. So that was my main requirement.
I didn't have a requirement. My main requirement was that Andy required me to come up with a list. So
I did not require you. You volunteered. But thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, Joel, why don't you hit us with your list?
Okay. So, as many of you know, I am a high school English teacher. It probably doesn't show when I speak on this podcast, but whatever. So, some of these books I chose because I want to read them in an effort to kind of broaden the things that I can teach. So at a high school, you have a list of books that the school already owns that you can kind of choose and say, all right, I want this book and I'm going to teach this book and so on and so forth. So some of the books I actually haven't read, and so it limits my possibilities of what I can teach. So the more I spend time, reading the books that we already have in the library, I can, use those. So some of these fall into that category. Some fall on the list of books on the bookshelf that I just haven't gotten around to. So my first one is The Princess Bride.
Great book.
William Goldman.
Love that book.
I've seen the movie, but I've never read the book. So
they're very similar. It's the closest book to movie adaptation. I think I've told you this before, but it's the closest book to movie adaptation I've ever read and seen. So
there you go.
It's great.
And then The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Of course, you would think I'd already read this since I was an English major, but I failed. So the next is Shogun by a guy named James Clavell. Or Clavel, I don't know how you say his name. But this book I got from a fellow teacher at a Christmas exchange. So
shout out to Becky Roadhouse.
Teehee. The next one is The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. A lot of people said this is good. I read over the description and I was like, I should read this. Then you have The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I think that's how you say his name. Who knows? This is a very well liked book by many. It falls under the category of stuff I need to read for school. Then you have Looking for Alaska by John Green. I always tell kids to read John Green books, and so I probably better do that myself a little bit.
I will say I'm very surprised that you... I've never read a John Green book, but I'm surprised that you like them just based off of what I've heard about them.
Based off of my looks?
Well,
judging me.
That's part of it, probably, but...
Yeah. So I've read Paper Towns before, and I really liked that one. That's the only John Green one I've read, so I can't really say. At least I think that's the only one I've read.
I just feel like you generally don't really gravitate towards young adult fiction. So
That's true.
I feel like John Green is like the exemplar of what young adult fiction is. So
That's true. Then you have another one that you'd think I'd read as an English major. Actually, I think the rest of these are ones you'd think I would have read as an English major, but maybe they were trying to steer clear of them when I was going to college. I don't know. But you have Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I have another Aldous Huxley book on here. The Doors of Perception, which is a very small book. This is where the rock band The Doors got their name.
Fun fact.
So there you go. Then you have Paradise Lost, John Milton. Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This is one that I've been told I need to read by a lot of people. And then 3, I need to read the Lord of the Rings novels, all 3 of them, so that counts as 3.
Yeah, that would count as 3.
There's this weird book by a guy named Brahm, and it's called Lost Gods. It has some weird art, and I just gravitated to the weird art, and the story is apparently a guy who goes down to hell, so it's kind of like a divine comedy sort of thing. So, of course, I decided to read that. This is one of the books I've already finished for the year. It's called Aleister Crowley, Magic, Rock and Roll, and the Wickedest Man in the World. So check one off my list. I love Charles Dickens. I want to read a Charles Dickens novel that I haven't read, so that's on the list. And then a weird book that I started reading just online, but I've never been able to find it in a bookstore, so I have yet to purchase it. It's called The Perpetual Astonishment of Jonathan Fairfax by Christopher Shevlin. I've looked everywhere for it. I've never been able to find it, so I might just have to buy it. But it's one I've wanted to read for a while.
I've never even heard of that one.
So, that's my 18.
Awesome. You're already ahead of me.
Yes.
Got one down.
/ you've read way more books than me already, but whatever.
I've read 10 books, but none of them have come from this list yet, unfortunately. But soon. I've got a year. I've got time. Okay, so for me, starting at the top, I guess, I have A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. I know you really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, it's like laugh out loud funny.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
And then I'm also reading it for book club for the Hoes That Read. Shout out to the Hoes That Read. I think we're reading it for March, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then I also have Crime and Punishment on my list. I started reading it in high school for AP Lit, and it's one of the few books I actually didn't finish, but I enjoyed it. So
shame on you.
I know. So, hopefully I get around to that one as well. I've never read Jane Eyre. Always wanted to.
Dude, that one's so good.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
I love that book.
So I'll be reading that one. Anne of Green Gables. I tell people I've never read that one and they're all shocked. So I'm looking forward to it. Gilead by
a really good one.
Marilyn Robinson. Yes, I've also heard you talk good things about that one. And then The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I've never read anything by Cormac McCarthy, so I'm looking forward to it.
That's the saddest book I've ever read in my whole life.
Really?
Yeah, dude. It's the most, I didn't feel happy for 2 days after I finished it.
Oh, should I take it off my list?
No, dude, you should totally keep it on there.
Okay.
You can't know happiness without sadness.
I'm pretty sure I'd be fine if I lived my life without reading that, though.
Yeah, but it's good.
Okay. Then Emma by Jane Austen. The only thing I've ever read by Jane Austen is Pride and Prejudice, so I wanted to add something else to my repertoire of things I've read by Jane Austen. So I'm looking forward to that one. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I also have The Alchemist on my list. And then I have Gandhi's autobiography. I'm really looking forward to reading that one as well. I started it a while ago and School just got in the way, so I wasn't able to really dig into it, but looking forward to it. I enjoyed what I had read so far. And then people always get like angry at me when they find out I've only read one Brandon Sanderson book. And so I decided I would put Mistborn on the list.
I've never read any of them.
Okay, well, no judgment from me. So I read Elantris, and it was good, but I'm just not a huge fantasy person. So Mistborn, I decided to give it a shot, and it's on my list. The Screwtape Letters by C.S. Lewis. This is another one I started.
You finished that one.
No, I got like halfway, and then school got in the way again.
Shame
so
on you.
I know I enjoyed it, but and then another C.S. Lewis I have is the Chronicles of Narnia. I have read the first 3 books, I believe, and so I just have the compendium. So I'm hoping to finish that.
So how many books does that count as?
4, I guess, but I'm counting it as 1 because I can. I'm going above and beyond. And then I have The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon.
I don't know.
I can't remember how you pronounce his name, but this won the Pulitzer Prize, and I've heard great things about it. And then the second Outlander book, Dragonfly and Amber by Diana Gabaldon. Planning on reading that one as well soon. I've been thinking about digging into that one as my next book. So, then Mountains Beyond Mountains by Tracy Kidder. The White Man's Burden by William Easterly. This is like a quintessential international development book, so I haven't read it, so I feel like I need to.
White people, they're lame.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a white person and I'm lame. So there you go. Logic right there.
What more reason do you need to read it, I guess? And then I've also never read a Malcolm Gladwell book, so I put David and Goliath on there because I've seen him speak, not in person, but just on YouTube and videos and interviews and things like that. And he's fantastic. And so I finally want to really dig into some of his work this year. So that's my list.
Nice. So hopefully you've made a list. If you haven't, get on it. Send us your list or don't, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, or if some of you have other bookish goals that you've made for yourself for 2018, please let us know. You can shoot us an email at bookbantermail@gmail.com. We'll read those and pick some of them out and share them with everybody else on the air. So, yeah, send them away.
Huzzah. All right. Should we dive into Annihilation?
Yes. Can we? Okay. Yes, we need to talk about this. I feel like we've been trying not to talk about it for the last couple days since we both finished it, and I have been dying to talk about it, but I know we had to wait till we recorded. So I'm glad that the time has finally come.
Okay.
So Annihilation is a book, like we said, by Jeff VanderMeer. It came out in 2014. It's the first in a series of 3 books known as the Southern Reach trilogy. And I don't know if you want to... You're better at giving synopses of books. I feel like you have to do it every day for the kids that you teach. So if you want to go ahead and give the synopses, that'd be great.
So the story goes that there is they call it Area X. It's a anomaly in the world that they live in. And so they keep sending these groups of people in there to study what's going on in Area X because Area X is slowly expanding. There's just weird. It just seems like a weird place. So you have this group of 4 ladies who go in. One is a biologist, one's an anthropologist, a psychologist, and...
a surveyor.
Oh, yes, the surveyor. And so they go in there. They start to check it out. They have all sorts of interesting, weird experiences that frighten them and excite them. And so you're just kind of left in this mysterious world with these ladies trying to figure out what's going on in Area X. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I would say the one other big thing is all these other expeditions that have occurred. They're the 12th expedition. So there have been 11 other expeditions before them. And each expedition
so they're told.
Yeah, so they're okay. Well, we'll get to that. So, and each expedition, either people don't return from Area X, they assume that they're killed, or they do return, but they're just not themselves, and they die soon thereafter. So it's just a very dangerous, weird place to go.
Kind of like a high school.
Exactly.
Gross. I'm going to Area X every day.
And just one warning, we will be talking about spoilers in this podcast. So if you still haven't read this book yet, but you're planning on it, I would recommend maybe pausing here, going and reading the book, and then coming back and listening. Or listen if you don't care about spoilers. So, but yeah, we're all about the spoilers here.
Teehee. All right. So, one of the reasons that we chose this book is because there is a film adaptation coming out, a movie with Natalie Portman as the main character, the biologist. And so that's kind of what drew me to the book. I watched the trailer and was like, whoa, this looks awesome. And then I was like, I should read the book, and I did. So there you go.
Yeah, and see, for me, I heard about this book maybe like 6 months ago before I even knew there was a movie coming out. We were watching Stranger Things, and so I was in a mood to read something weird and strange. And so I came across this book on Goodreads and thought it sounded super interesting. And so I added it to my TBR list, and then I just finished it a couple days ago. So that's why we chose this book, because we both wanted to read it for different reasons. But yeah. So I know you really liked the book because it only took you like a day and a half to read.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It's not a very long book. It's
100.
It's like 195 pages long. So it's not long. And it actually took me a lot longer to read than I thought it would, because I was not as drawn in as I thought I was going to be.
Bogus.
So I know. So I want to like this book so badly, but I'm not there yet. So you have to help me figure out why.
Okay. Well, why didn't you like the book? Okay. Well, let me just tell you, I devoured this book. Like I read pretty fast, but like there's a lot of books that I've started. Granted, I usually read like 800-page books, like fat novels, and so it takes me a while. But like this one was just like boom, done. I was like, by page 20, I was like, holy crap, what's gonna happen? I gotta keep reading. Go. And so I don't know why you didn't happen for you, because like I said, by like page 20 I was like, I like this book, and then I kept going and I was like, I still like this book. This is an awesome book.
Yeah, I see. For me, so I started the book, and it was I think I just wasn't in the mood to begin with to read a book like this, I guess. And
a good book?
No, just like this sci-fi weird book.
Okay. So you were like, hey, I need to read Pride and Prejudice, but instead we're going to read this book?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I was in the mood for nonfiction, like I always am, because it's my favorite genre.
Ew.
Hey, don't you dare.
What?
Nonfiction is amazing.
It's a thing.
Hey.
It's around.
Okay, that's it for another episode. Okay. So, but I mean, I'm not a big sci-fi person. So to like go into a sci-fi book already not being in the mood, it's kind of just not a good time. But I don't know. I just didn't feel super drawn in. Like when she finds a tower and stuff, I was kind of like, okay, cool. I don't really.
You didn't care what was down there?
Yeah, I just didn't.
Okay, so here in our household, we have this debate of if Lost is a good show. And I say it is not a good show. Because, hello, spoiler alert, it ends stupid.
Okay, and I love Lost, which is weird. I actually had that same thought while I was reading this, because I thought, this reminds me a lot of Lost,
right.
And I love Lost, but for some reason I'm just not connecting with this book, which is kind of similar.
The characters didn't have names?
No, not that. It wasn't that at all.
Okay, because
I don't know. I think if it would have been visual, if this was a show, I would have had a completely different experience. But I think maybe it was a way that Jeff VanderMeer kind of described things. I just had a hard time. Maybe I just had a hard time wrapping my head around them or getting the full
how he
picture.
described things beautifully.
I see, and I didn't agree with that. Like, he would say things, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like,
really? That's so weird.
I had a hard time picturing certain things. So, but I mean, there were a couple times when I was like, oh, I want to find out what happens.
Right.
But it was like for the 2 pages right leading up to you finding out what happens, and then after that, I was like, I don't care anymore.
See,
so
I couldn't stop. Now, for me, it made me want to read this other books, but at the same time, not. Like, I feel like it was a good enough sort of standalone.
Yeah. See, which is opposite of me, which is interesting. For me, I'm like, I think I would enjoy learning about the history of Area X and just learning more about it in general, because I think maybe having come to this book with that understanding, I might have enjoyed it more.
The understanding of what?
Just of what was happening in the book.
So you're saying
just the biologist.
Yeah, you're saying like, oh, can I get 300 pages beforehand of the history of Area X and then how they went in and...
Yeah, and I also think that for me... Well, I guess this is also what I would like to get out of the next 2 books and why I would like to read them, is I would like to know if she ever finds her husband, if she comes across him at some point, you know, as she's going back up the coast.
Right.
And I think the book didn't really end in a nice, pretty bow. It wasn't super tied together.
Well, right. It was very sort of, I have 2 other books, so
yeah.
Go read those if you want more.
Yeah, so I think if I read those and had more of a concrete understanding of why Area X is the way it is. See, okay, now that I'm like talking about it, I'm starting to realize I think why I didn't like this as much as some other people did. For me, I felt like Jeff VanderMeer was kind of like, I'm just going to describe this really weird place with no explanation whatsoever and nothing to logically to back up why it is the way it is.
See, but that's what makes it so intriguing, is because you're just like, what's going to happen? Oh my gosh, what are they going to find something? Are they not going to find something? Is somebody going to jump out of the bushes? Is some crazy creature going to come? What's going to happen?
Right, and I understand that, and I agree why
it was thrilling.
People would like that. Why people would like
Absolutely
that.
Thrilling. I almost said frilling.
It was a thrilling experience.
Yes.
Okay. But I think for me it's kind of like, I'm just going to throw all this, like, he still could have had her discover certain things that kind of explained more of what was going on and given it some logic behind it, instead of just saying like, it's this weird place. And so for me, it like just didn't make sense. There wasn't a logical basis there. And that's why Lost is just different, because they explain why things are the way they are, kind of.
Yeah. And then it turns out they were all dead or something stupid.
Hey. Okay, I'm not going to say that I agree with the ending, but the series was fantastic. So, again, another episode.
Bogus ending. I've never even watched the whole show. My family got too weirded out.
Oh, well, it was great.
Anyway.
So yeah, I think I'd like to read the next 2 books just to get more of a logical underpinning of Area X, and to find out if she ever comes across her husband again. Or, yeah, maybe it's like Lost. Maybe they're all dead.
That would piss me off. I'll throw this book at the wall.
Hey, it could happen, because that's just,
and I'll be like, this book is a butt cheek.
Get
it out of here. Get it out of here. Blech.
Okay, well, maybe somewhere down the road I'll read it for you, and I can tell you whether or not you should read it.
Whether or not it's a butt cheek?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. No, but I mean, this is one book. So as a high school teacher, right, I'm always like, hey, you should read this, right? Trying to get kids to read books, because they suck at reading now. They just read their stupid phones. Anyway, that's another... I won't start there.
That's another podcast entirely.
But like, this is a book that I would suggest to a lot of my students, minus the sex scene, which is one of those things where I'm like, crap, why did that have to be in there? Which it's not, it's very subtle. And I mean, she talks like for 2 sentences about it,
Oh.
Right, the biologist talks about her and her husband.
Okay. Well,
and it's 2 seconds, and I guess Andy forgot about it. So
yeah,
maybe my students will forget about it. But I think it's one that would keep a lot of their attention and that mystery factor of moving forward. And
yeah.
whoa, what's gonna happen? Oh my gosh, is this a thing? Whoa, what's gonna jump out at him?
Yeah. Well, and I also kind of appreciated, I guess, the few times when the biologist talks about how she's really connected to the environment and how it's kind of a safe haven for her, even though she was living in a really bad situation growing up as a child. And I thought it was interesting how there were a couple times when she kind of mentioned how humans are destroying the environment, and if Area X took over and just, took over the world and absorbed everything, then maybe that'd be a good thing. I'd be fine with that because humans are the problem. And so I thought it was a very interesting thing to read right now when there's a lot of people talking about climate change
global
and
warming and
yeah,
what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. And I think that's a major part of maybe why he wrote this book is a kind of critique on, almost nature fighting back against humans and saying, screw you, I'm taking this back. Yeah,
and so I'm interested to see how the movie takes that on and whether that's a central part of the movie. I feel like I watched a trailer and it doesn't look like it's going to be a close adaptation at all, but
no, I think that's one of the things that also drew me into this book too, was if you watch the trailer, it seems like there's going to be a lot more of that sci-fi element of weird creatures and the weird creatures fighting the people and the people fighting back, Starship Troopers. That's an old school movie. But I think that's right. That's what drew me in. And when I read the book, I was kind of like, oh, that didn't happen. Like just even from watching the trailer. Right. And so I think that's one of the things that it'll be interesting to see if it follows well or if it's totally just based off of the novel as opposed to the novel.
I also thought it was an interesting casting choice to have Natalie Portman and what's his name, Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
To have them there because they're both from a Star Wars franchise, and I feel like if I saw the movie, I would just be thinking of Star Wars the whole time. But
Poe getting with Queen Amidala.
Yeah, exactly.
Unts.
Maybe they go into Area X and it's just Anakin is in there
screeching at them the whole time.
Yes, exactly.
He's actually the monster from the trailer.
Exactly.
Anakin. Uh-huh. He's like, no, you can't be together.
Yep.
I love you.
And then he starts crying.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
And then he ruins Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. So, and then George Lucas comes out from somewhere and
he's a giant shrubbery. I'm a shrubbery.
I'm gonna attack you with my poorly written dialogue.
And my portliness.
Yeah, sure. He's a portly shrub.
He's a portly shrubbery.
Mm-hmm. I'm not even like a Star Wars person. Anyway.
Okay.
I'm not into Star Wars, so it's just anyway.
We can all diss on George Lucas. So yeah.
So are you going to go see the movie then?
Yeah,
because I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to see it.
I'll probably go see the movie.
Okay, well,
you're too scared. You don't like scary movies.
Okay, well, yes. I'm a self-proclaimed wimp when it comes to scary movies.
Very true.
So I won't be seeing it. Looks a little too intense for me, but you'll have to go see it and then report back on our next episode.
Yeah, for sure. I'll totally go see it and report back.
Awesome. That'd be great. Appreciate it. Thanks for taking one for the team.
You know it.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap up with Annihilation. That actually wasn't too spoilery, so that was good. But
totally wasn't.
Yeah. But
hopefully it intrigued you. You want to read it now.
Yes. Or if you agree with us.
Or if you're a wimp like Andy and don't want to read it, then that's fine too, I guess.
Well, I wanted to read it, but then it just was disappointing. Anyway, we've already talked about the book.
Best book ever. Okay, not best book ever, but it was really good.
Okay. I'm glad you liked it. Okay, well, if any of you readers out there also read Annihilation, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Maybe you agree with me.
Maybe read your thoughts.
Yeah.
Read
your thoughts. So send us an email at bookbantermail@gmail.com, and we'll read those on the air. All right. Do you want to tell us what our next book is for February?
Yeah, so for February, we are doing a book called The Power by Naomi Alderman. I have no idea anything about this book, so Andy's the one that's kind of like, let's read this one.
So, well, this was actually recommended by Lauren Simpson. Shout out to Lauren Simpson. You rock. This is actually a book that my Hose That Read book club, shout out to the Hose That Read as well. We're going to be reading this.
Them out.
Double shout out because they're extra special.
They're nice.
So
They're not really hoes.
Oh, thanks.
At least I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Okay, good.
But we're reading The Power in February, and it's I guess essentially it's a book about this world where women all of a sudden have the power to the power of electricity, I guess. They can
shock people.
Yeah, like they can inflict pain and even death just by the touch of their fingers. And so through that, there's a shift in society and who has power.
Right. I mean, if a lady's going to just shock me because I look at her wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I should be looking at women in the naughty way. You shouldn't
be looking at any other woman, Joel. I'm your one and only. Anyway. So this book will be perfect for this time right now with the Me Too movement, Time's Up, and everything.
I thought you were going to talk about Valentine's Day.
Oh,
how
no.
fitting.
No. I wasn't thinking about it that way, but...
If you don't get me some flowers, I'm going to shock the crap out of you.
Oh, please don't get me flowers. I mean, I like flowers, but I would prefer a book, so...
Oh, how fitting.
So, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But this book will be really fitting for the social dialogue that's going on right now, and I'm super excited to read it. I've heard a lot of great things about it. It actually won the Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction in 2017, so it has got some really good hype around it, and I'm excited to read it.
Nice. If you want to get... started on March's book as well, which I've started doing. It's Dune by Frank Herbert. Old school sci-fi epic. Kind of started sci-fi off into where it is today. So you might want to get a jump on that one. It's like 800 pages.
Yeah, and that one was recommended by Zach Lichty. So shout out to Zach Lichty. You rock. But yeah, I think that's it for us for this episode.
There you go.
Yeah. If you'd like to stay up to date on all of our happenings, feel free to follow us on our Instagram. It's at Book Banter Podcast. Or if you'd like to recommend a book, ask us a question, or provide us with some feedback, feel free to email us at bookbantermail@gmail.com.
Thanks. Yeah. Give us some feedback.
Yeah.
You can tell me how obnoxious my voice sounds. That's fine. I mean, I can't change that, but I'll try. I mean, I can talk like this the whole time if you want me to. But I probably won't, because that's more obnoxious, actually.
That's a lot more obnoxious.
All right. Well, sorry to leave you on that obnoxious note. Have a great day or night, whatever time you're listening to this.
And we'll catch you next month.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.